All around baseball, major league teams are signing their young, up-and-coming talent to contract extensions, and it's time for the Miami Marlins to do the same.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I'm a diehard Marlins fan, and I've podcasted about the team for the last 4 seasons. You can find me on X at Jeremiah Geiger too, and thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel, and let me know your thoughts in today's show. It's a live show. We got the comments open, so feel free to hop in, whether it's contract extensions, MLB realignment and expansion. We're going to get into that later, and also preview the Toronto Blue Jays series this weekend. But first off, this episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. So the idea of contract extensions for pre-arbitration eligible players, it's not a new idea. But I'm noticing this season in particular, there are a lot of teams that are taking this strategy very seriously and implementing it into their long-term plans. The most recent example, today, the news comes out, the Baltimore Orioles, they just signed their catcher, Samuel Basallo, to an 8-year, $67 million contract extension. He just got called up, but they like what they saw in him as a hitter, especially. There's some work to be done defensively, of course, but they believe in Basallo as being a part of the next Orioles playoff team. He's here for the core. He's here for the long haul, and we're going to make sure that we give him enough money to where him and his family are set up for life. I mean, $67 million across 8 years. It's a great chunk of change for the player. But then for the team's perspective, you have to look at it as we're getting a potential star for cheap, because in arbitration, his ARB years are going to be bought out. You don't have to worry about that. And then you're buying out some free agency years as well. And that's what a lot of teams are implementing. The Boston Red Sox, they did that with Christian Campbell right when the season started. They just did that with Roman Anthony, the former top overall prospect. He still is, but he's in the major leagues right now, and he's performing well. And so I believe it's time for the Marlins to start doing the same. And David's in the show. And David, we're going to kick it off by talking about Jacob Marcy and these other young pieces. So I have 3 names in mind that stand out to me as the most obvious potential extension candidates: Jacob Marcy, Yuri Perez, and Agustin Ramirez. We're going to start with Jacob Marcy. I think Marcy is a 5-tool player. I know you look down the metrics, he hits the ball hard, he draws his walks. I've talked about it on the show, how good he is as a baseball player. And the potential for him to be great is right there. You look around at other profiles offensively, he's right up there with the best. Since his major league debut, he's been the best player in baseball. He's already put up positive WAR, I believe like 1.3, 1.4 WAR in just under a month of playing in the majors. It's incredible. Jacob Marcy, to me, is a perfect contract extension. That is what the Red Sox are doing. That is what the Orioles are doing. That's what the Braves did for years. They signed, Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna Jr., parts of their core that got them a World Series. They were locked into place. They have their core for years. And what are the Marlins trying to do? What has this whole season been about? It's about, yes, wins and losses, Obviously, we like winning on this channel. On this show, we don't support losing efforts. We're not going to say tank. I'm never going to say tank. And thankfully, the draft lottery took care of that because I hate that attitude. But in a season with very little expectations, it was about developing your young talent and trying to identify who's going to be here long term. And to me, there's no doubt in my mind, Jacob Marcy is that guy. Thomas is in the chat. He says, I'm probably an outlier on this question because 4 years should be the maximum MLB deal length, in my opinion. That's another good point. Given the contract structure as it currently stands in baseball, a team is under, or players are under control for multiple years, like 6 years before they're even eligible to go sign a free agency contract with another team. That's a long time. You don't see that in the NFL. You have your rookie deals, but in the NFL, you'll have a player like, for example, in Dallas right now, Micah Parsons, he's on his rookie deal. He wants that extension. Extensions are commonplace in professional American sports. So Marcy, David comes in and says, Marcy's a career 239 hitter in the minors. He looks amazing, but there's huge risk in putting limited Marlins dollars into him this early. I understand there's a risk, and it is a risk. Anytime a team signs one of their prospects or a player with limited experience at the major league level to a multi-year deal where they're buying out those arbitration years and possibly free agency years, then you're going to have that risk of it not panning out. I'm not going to say Christian Campbell's going to flame out, but they sent him down to AAA after they signed him to an 8-year, $60 million deal. But then they stuck with the same approach and signed Roman Anthony. The key for me, guys, if you feel confident in a player for the long term, and obviously you're going to if you're going to sign him to this extension, then it makes sense to do so. And it's a sign from the ownership, from Bruce Sherman to the fan base. This is our sign of commitment. We're going to extend our young talent and change the narrative that these, Jacob Marcy, Augustine Ramirez, they're going to go to these big market teams one day. Miami's just a feeder system. This is how you combat that. And so moving on to Augustine Ramirez. Is he a contract extension candidate? Yes and no. And here's where I pause on Augustine. Defensively, he is so bad at catcher. You can't extend him thinking he's going to be a catcher because it's not going to happen. It's a matter of time, and I'm going on record here on the show telling you that Augustine is not a catcher and he'll eventually move off the position. So the question is, do you still give him that money knowing his positional volatility and the weakness in his game? Because he's going to be limited to two positions, first base or DH, if you want to call DH a position, designated hitter. And there's the argument that he's too young to become a full-time DH, which is why I want you just to give him the first baseman's mitt and say, learn this position, get in with Tyler Smarslock, the infield coaches, everybody in the organization, try to make him a potential first base option because they have a hole there. Thomas, we have a 6-year window. Yes, but the issue isn't the 6-year window for the Marlins. It's the idea of the commitment behind it. It's a statement. It's you're going to be here for the long term because although you have a 6-year window, once they hit arbitration, you're still under team control. But that if you're performing well, that number is going to go up. It's going to go way higher than it is right now. Pre-arbitration, you're making the league minimum. You get the, under $1 million. You're cheap, and that's how these teams can get all this talent in their system. They can't afford everybody, so you have to pick and choose who's going to be here for the long term. Kyle Stowers, for example, career season, all-star, Unfortunately, he's on the injured list, but I mean, he was playing at an MVP level. His arbitration number, when he hits ARB, it's going to be really high. And the Marlins, they typically don't want to spend that much money. They extended Sandy Alcantara, team-friendly deal, 5 years, $55 million, something along the lines of that. And it's worked out for the most part. Sandy went out and won a Cy Young Award. But for the majority of Bruce Sherman's tenure, they don't spend well in free agency. Avisail Garcia was a complete bust. And the last 2 years, it's been Cal Quantrill and Tim Anderson. So what else are they going to spend their money on? To me, if you're serious about winning, and you've said before publicly, we're going to spend money when the right time comes. The right time for me is this offseason. It's not even this offseason. It could happen in September. It could happen at the end of this month. It could happen today where we get an announcement, because we see that happen all the time. We just saw that with the Orioles today. Augustine, I am still supportive of extending him because that's how much I believe in the bat. I just think they need to ditch the catching experiment and start accelerating him at first base. Get him to learn that position, because there's still going to be more value for him at first than there is at DH. And that's just a fact. The last player that I think is a clear cut, you need to get on the phone with his agent and start discussing numbers, is Yuri Perez. Here's the tricky part. Yuri is so good. Yuri's so good that I don't know if he considers an extension, because he could make $300 million when he hits free agency. And we're going to wrap up this segment, but I want to get to this question right here, or this comment from Thomas. Very good point. Even with the CBA and the possibility of a lost season looming, the other teams are doing it. And that's the thing that gives me, I guess, comfort in the fact that, hey, if the Marlins do that, I'm not going to feel bad about it. If the Baltimore Orioles, who notoriously are stingy with spending in free agency, who had a championship window and didn't spend, they didn't get any quality pitchers. They're wasting their offensive core, at least this season. They saw what they had in Samuel, and they signed him. I think the Marlins can do the same. I'm not willing to give that as a cop-out for Bruce Sherman. Ownership has to take command and open up the wallets. At some point, you're going to have to. And we didn't expect this success for the Marlins this season. But we're seeing emerging stars. We're seeing emerging pieces. Now it's about making sure that they stay in Miami. Coming up next, I'm going to talk about the MLB expansion and realignment ideas. Commissioner Rob Manfred brought this up on a recent broadcast, and I think it could be good for baseball. It could breathe some fresh life into the sport. I'm not that opposed to the idea. That's coming up right after this. It's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime-flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Whether you're out on the course or you just need a little extra push to power through your day, 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. I don't know about you guys, the listeners, but I'm not much of a golfer. I got to hit Top Golf. I got to get my swing in order, because it's a mess. Never actually played a full round of golf, but I got to try. I live near some golf courses. I'm going to make an effort here. But golf, if you go golfing, it's all about the good times with great people, making memories. And the grape, ginger, lime flavor of 5-Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without ever leaving the course or chasing down the beverage cart. And now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for two to any golf tournament in the USA. Tee up that trip. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. If you're an everyday listener to the show, I do appreciate you. We recently hit 2,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel, and it's only going upward from here on out. Got a month and a half left of the season. Let's keep it going. So Rob Manfred, the Little League Classic, it was the Mariners and the Mets. Rob Manfred hops on the telecast, and he starts talking about realignment and expansion. I think it's a good, exciting idea for the sport of baseball, specifically the expansion part. If you want to expand to 32 teams, that means that there's going to be 2 new cities in the USA, presumably, that get a baseball franchise. There's a couple cities I have in mind. Number 1 is Nashville. Nashville, they already have an NFL team, the Tennessee Titans. They sell out their crowds well. It's an entertainment district. They have everything you want for a visiting fan to have fun at the ballpark, for a home environment as well. They would build a very quick fan base, or a fan base very quickly, rather. And I think Nashville's the number 1 option. Also, Portland. And I'm partial to this because I lived in Oregon from when I was a kid and throughout high school, middle school. Oregon doesn't have a baseball team, but Portland is a very big city. It's got a big metro area. They only have the Trailblazers. I think the city of Portland would get behind a major league team very fast. And those 2 cities have been in rumors about potential expansion for years now. It feels like for the last 5 years, one day Nashville will get a team. Will the Tampa Bay Rays move out of St. Petersburg, out of Tampa, and head off to Nashville? So we're going to see what happens with that. What comes with expansion, and this is all hypothetical, of course, is realignment. And I'm going to read you a quote from Rob Manfred on this TV broadcast. And he said, "I think if we expand, it provides us with an opportunity to geographically realign. I think we could save a lot of wear and tear on our players in terms of travel. I think our postseason format would be even more appealing for entities like ESPN because you'd be playing out of the East, out of the West, and that 10 o'clock where we sometimes get Boston, Anaheim would be 2 West Coast teams. That 10 o'clock slot, that's a problem for us sometimes. It becomes a real opportunity for our West Coast audience." So here's the issue I have with Rob Manfred's statement. I don't care about your TV deal. I don't care if it makes it easier on ESPN. And the fact that you mentioned ESPN specifically, it strikes a chord with me because ESPN, it's terrible when it comes to covering baseball. They're not good. They put out a graphic today of like the top, sports athletes in today's world. And there were like 2 baseball players, 18 WNBA players, football players, NBA players, no, like barely any baseball players. The coverage ESPN does for the sport of baseball is close to non-existent. Geographical realignment, though, this is interesting. Because where would the Marlins fit into this? And I've seen a couple of different scenarios in which the teams are grouped together. And the most popular one that I've seen, the Marlins, the Braves, the Rays, and the expansion Nashville team or the expansion Charlotte team. I've seen that. That's all in one division. And as Thomas says, Nashville has grown exponentially. Louisville was bigger throughout history, but lacks Nashville's vision and civic leadership. Excellent point, Thomas. I always appreciate you commenting. Nashville, like Thomas said, they're ready for a baseball team. To me, if expansion happens, and I believe it will at some point, that's a top option. And the Marlins would be in a division, theoretically, with the Braves, which I like. I want to be in a division with the Braves because, to me, the biggest thing with geographical realignment is how are you going to maintain rivalries? There's not going to be a scenario in which the Yankees and the Red Sox aren't in the same division. It's not going to happen. And I know the Marlins and Red Sox aren't, or the Marlins and Braves aren't rivals to that extent, but I sure hate them. And if you're watching the podcast, you probably hate the Braves also. I don't like those guys. I think the Marlins beat them in 97 in the postseason to eventually get to the World Series. In 2003, another World Series, you didn't play the Braves, but you played the Giants, and that was like a semi-rivalry right there. Of course, Miami and San Francisco, that would never work. But the Braves consistently have been in the Marlins division since the 90s, and it shouldn't change moving forward. As Edward says, we hate the Braves, the Mets, and the Yankees. Thomas hates the Braves all the way back to his Expos fandom. Yeah, the Montreal Expos, a classic team that, unfortunately got phased out of their city, and then they became the Washington Nationals. And now the Nationals are in the division, the same division as the Marlins, the NL East. I want to stay in the same division as rivals. Realignment is exciting. Will the Marlins be competitive in realignment? That's the biggest thing. Expansion, realignment, that's so many years down the road. There's a lot of topics we could delve into. For example, salary cap, salary floor. With the new CBA coming, a potential lockout in 2027. How does that all factor in? The commissioner has all these ideas running around. He's been changing the game. We have the ghost runner on second base now. For a while, we had, a talk of a pitch clock. Then a pitch clock came along. We're going to see AI, the automatic balls and strikes system, which I'm for. In the version they play in the minor leagues, I think it's run very smoothly. But change is coming. I think it's a good thing. I think it's exciting, and I think it's going to grow the sport. I just hope the Marlins are in a position with the talent whenever this happens that they're going to be consistently competing year in and year out. Because the worst case scenario for Major League Baseball is you're going to have a lack of parity. And you're going to have the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Red Sox win every World Series seemingly for 10 years straight. And then 2031, you got little team down here and they get lucky. And that's what's happened in the Marlins. I want a consistent winner. I want a sense of parity in the sport while still maintaining excitement. And yeah, as Thomas says, there's a lot on the table. They need to hit a home run in the CBA. This is huge. This is huge for the sport of baseball. Expansion is exciting. Realignment is exciting, but keep the rivalries. That's my key right there. That's the big takeaway from this segment when it comes to realignment specifically. The Marlins are still playing baseball, though. We're not in a lockout yet, and they got a big series against a really good team this weekend. The Toronto Blue Jays are first place in the American League East. Marlins are starting to trend downhill. They've lost 5 series in a row. It's not getting any easier, and it's not getting any easier this weekend. I'm going to talk about this series and preview what to watch for right after this. Remember to hit subscribe on that YouTube channel if you haven't already. Let's keep growing the show together. And also, Locked On Marlins is on all the major podcast platforms out there. You can listen to the show wherever you are: Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, whatever is your preferred way to listen to podcasts. The Blue Jays come into town, and I'm not very confident. I don't think I've been confident in the Marlins since the Braves series. That Braves series really hurt me. I was hurt by it. I mean, you lose 4 out of 5 to, as we talked about, hated rivals, and then you lose to the Guardians, and then you lose to the Red Sox and the Cardinals. Eventually, you got to stop the bleeding. Blue Jays right now, really underrated team, I think. I don't think they're being talked about enough on a national scale. You see more talk about the Yankees' lack of success than you see about the Blue Jays' actual success. And right now, the Blue Jays, they have the top 3 record in all of baseball. 74-54, 20 games over 500. And looking at the numbers here, it's going to be important for the Marlins pitching staff to keep them at bay because offensively, this team hits. As a team, a 267 average, that's good for first in baseball. They lead Major League Baseball in hits. Pitching is where you can get to this team. And today's game is going to be interesting in particular because you have Shane Bieber on the mound. And it's a really cool story. He was traded at the deadline from the Cleveland Guardians to the Blue Jays. Bieber hasn't pitched since April 2nd, 2024. And he gets the Marlins on the road at Lone Depot. This is a good opportunity for the Marlins to take advantage of a pitcher who's going to be shaking off the rust. Then you have Jose Barrios on Saturday for the Blue Jays and Kevin Gausman, who's as volatile as a pitcher I've ever seen. On one given night, he'll go 8 shutout. The next night, 3 2/3. He's like Cal Quantrill. Speaking of, Friday's start was supposed to be Cal Quantrill's turn in the rotation. He is no longer in the rotation. He was placed on waivers earlier this week. Ryan Gusto is going to get the start. Really excited to watch Ryan Gusto pitch. I liked what I saw from him in his spot start against the Braves. He was called up 2 weekends ago to face the Braves in the doubleheader. Or was that last weekend? I'm losing track of time here. As Thomas says, these Jays are confident. They're playing good ball. So Gusto's got to attack with the fastball. He's got to attack with the fastball. It's his best pitch. You live with it up in the zone. It has a lot of carry to it, good movement, and then you work the secondaries off of that pitch. But if you can't control the fastball and you're all over the place, you're missing it right down the heart of the zone, these Blue Jays won't miss it. And I'm curious as to see whether Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to play in this series, if he's going to just DH. If he feels good, I think he strained his hamstring. It was a calf or hamstring earlier this week, so they're being very cautious with him. But he's somebody you just don't want to mess with. We talk about savant profiles and how good Jacob Marcy's under the hood metrics are. You know, like exit velocity, hard hit rate. If you go to Savant and you type in Vladimir Guerrero Jr., it's all red. The guy's really, really good. So for the Marlins, there's really nothing to lose. You got to play free. You got to play loose. But what I want to say with that, you got to play with fundamentals. This series has got to be focused on fundamentals. You had an off day yesterday on Thursday. There should be a meeting or something. There should be a get together with the coaches, with the players. Hey, let's dial it in here, because we've been playing sloppy baseball. And if you lose a game, that's fine. It's baseball. It's a 162 game grind. You're going to lose. It happens. But what I hate seeing is when the Marlins lose the way they lose, dropping fly balls, not knowing where to go with the baseball, taking a grounder and looking before you gather it in. The stuff we learn in Little League, we learn in high school. That's got to be cleaned up. Getting some comments about the hat. I appreciate it, guys. I got this hat. It's like an alternate cream color with the Marlins logo, black brim. MLB Shop for anybody interested in it. I like mixing up the hats on the show quite a bit. I got to get a new one of these days. Drop some suggestions. Hit me up. What new Marlins hat should I get? What theme should I get up next? I have the Florida Marlins throwback with the teal. That's one of my favorites. Mitchell and Ness. Really, really good cap. The Blue Jays. I want to see some wins. I want to see the Marlins win this series. I want to see the Marlins give some excitement to the fan base again. It's been tough. Hopefully, it's to be determined for the rest of the pitchers this weekend, but looking at the rest days in between starts, I think we're going to see Yuri and we're going to see Jansen Junk. Yuri kicked off the week against St. Louis. He was okay. Could have gone better. Same with his last start in Cleveland. And then you have Jansen Junk, who went 7 innings in Boston but hasn't pitched this week. Wouldn't surprise me if he pitches Saturday, Yuri pitches Sunday. Give that extra day of rest to Yuri. Because I think the pitching staff for the Marlins without Cal Quantrill, and all due respect to him, it's a lot better now. I wanted Snelling called up, but I'm excited for Gusto. You just got to be careful with this team. Conor Norby is in rehab. He's at a rehab assignment in Jacksonville, and he homered in his first rehab game. I hope he comes back smoking, Thomas. I really do. I had such high expectations for Conor Norby heading into this season. I thought he was going to be the best Marlins player. I thought he was going to be the offensive MVP. And it was anything but that. Just no plate discipline, couldn't stay healthy, couldn't figure out third base until Graham Paulie came around and is the great wall of Paulie back there, just like a vacuum, scooping up everything. And now Paulie's hurt. So Norby, if his rehab assignment goes well, he's going to come back up. I saw this comment earlier. Someone tagged me on Twitter about Conor Norby potentially getting a shot at first base. And I thought that was just interesting because I wouldn't be opposed, honestly. When Paulie and Norby are both healthy, I want Paulie at third base. But the first step, we got to get them back healthy. We got to get them back on the team in order for them to contribute. Edward says, what about Graham Paulie at first? See, I think Graham Paulie's got to stick at third base. He's so good defensively. That's his position. If you look at the outs above average, how good these guys are at stopping runs and just their range at certain positions. Outs above average is their range. He's right there in like the 96th percentile. I mean, I call him our version of Ke'Bryan Hayes. And Ke'Bryan Hayes is a gold glover. He's probably the best. He is the best defensive third baseman in baseball. I view Graham Paulie as that type of player. And so I think he's the third baseman. And when he comes back, he's locked in there. So Norby at first base, where does Norby fit in? So you can't really DH him. I mean, you could because you're going to throw Augustine at catcher. So in a perfect world, Augustine would be DH and Norby would have to find somewhere to play. The outfield's kind of jam-logged. You got a lot of players there, especially with Marcy now up and starring. He's played some left field. We'll see what they do. That's a storyline to watch. And that's the other thing, as Thomas says, if only he was taller. Although this team has surprised me with how they put shorter guys at first. Liam Hicks is 5'9", and he was playing first base this season. Not the prototypical guy. I think Conor Norby's 5'10". Correct me if I'm wrong. 5'10", 5'11". Maybe I'm underselling him a little bit. Let's see how tall he is. But for Norby, I just struggle to see where he fits into the long-term plans. As Edward says, is he a future piece? I thought he was. I'm not so sure anymore. And that's kind of a good problem to have. And Conor Norby is 5'10". When you have competition in your organization, that's the best thing that can happen. The worst case scenario for the Marlins is where you have legitimate questions about a player's, talent and ceiling and his production level, but you're stagnant outside of him, and you can't give him anybody to compete with. The Marlins have done that with Paulie and with Norby and with guys all over the diamond, and that's going to create potential, moves down the road, some trades. Same with the pitching staff. How good has Robbie Snelling been in the minors? He's ready to come up. Ryan Weathers is itching to come back from injury. He started throwing again. He's going to be back this season. Competition, it brings out the best in our players. And like Thomas says, depth. Solid Marlins depth. We haven't seen this in a long time. And so I think the Marlins are in a good position to be. And I think when you take this season as a whole, and you look at the players that we've seen come up, Augustine, Marcy, Yuri coming off of Tommy John surgery, Kyle Stowers, there are some candidates for those contract extensions, as we talked about. Lock them up. Make them a part of the next big Marlins season. This Marlins team, it's coming. It's coming. Major League Baseball, get ready. Peter Bendix knows what he's doing, but he needs support. He needs Bruce Sherman to have his back and make sure that we're not going to see another rebuild in 4 or 5 years. And it just starts all over again. I want to see some commitment financially. Talent is great, but you have to commit financially. You got to open up the pocketbook. Do it, Bruce. We need you to. I appreciate you guys for listening and tuning in. That's going to do it for today's live edition of Locked On Marlins. Until next time, guys, stay safe, stay locked on, enjoy the game, enjoy this weekend, and let's go fish.